All right, in the DYC studios today, we have none other than Nicole Maggio-Deaton, the marketing manager at Chesapeake Homes.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you for ending the drought that we've had here, unintentional, by the way, of actual new home marketers.
Well, I'm happy to be here and kind of talk a little bit about my story and how I got to where I am because I was not always a new home marketer. So,
Enough of the fluff and the theory stuff that we talk about sometimes. Let's get back to the reality of the front line. So thanks for coming on. All right, Chesapeake Homes, for those who um, are not aware, a little bit of background on where you build, your volume, price point, all the things. Tell us about Chesapeake.
yeah, of course. So we consider ourselves a regional builder now. We are building, started out in the coastal Virginia area. We branched into the Raleigh Triangle area. 2018, we branched into the coastal South Carolina area, so Myrtle Beach. And this year, we have launched in coastal North Carolina, in Brunswick County. So we're excited to be there. We are aiming for a little over 500 homes sold this year, which is exciting for us. It's exciting for me because when I started here, we were not near that number. So to see that growth has really been great.
Yeah, and you also develop master plans. So you're a developer and a builder, right?
We do. We have a developer under our umbrella as well of our companies that we have. So we have a master plan community in Myrtle Beach, Bridgewater, and we are getting ready to do Coastal Club in Brunswick County that will also stretch into South Carolina. So it's pretty exciting.
Awesome. And how many years have you been at Chesapeake?
Yeah. So I've actually, last week, I have been here 9 years. So just hit my 9 year anniversary here. So that's been really exciting. You know, I started when I was 25, and really it's been a huge part of my growth as a woman going through a career, and
Right.
really
Yeah.
starting from the ground up. So
Growing up in the industry,
yes,
as I say. And your mentor, boss, I don't know what we call her really, but Carrie Woodward,
yes.
many people will be familiar with that name and recognize her. She's always at the conferences and big on continuing education and learning more and helping the team. So
Yeah.
talk to us about where you started at Chesapeake.
Yeah. So when I started here, it was 2014, and I was looking for a career change at the time. I was doing more, administrative things. I had a marketing background. And so, naturally, I went to the sales route, which made not much
Naturally,
sense.
because you wanted to make money, or
Naturally, I
naturally?
needed, I was 25. I was like, let's do this. Like, I'm ready to get into a different industry. I think I started in real estate the way that a lot of people start in real estate. That's they either buy their own home or they see a lot on HGTV. And I was a combination of both. So after purchasing my home, I was like, this is a really cool experience. But I knew
Oh, so you bought with Chesapeake at
no, I didn't
25.
buy with Chesapeake. I just buying a home
Oh,
in general. So that was what
got it.
really I wanted to go into real estate. And when I went into real estate, I didn't want to go the general brokerage route. I knew that really wasn't for me. I knew the new shiny building industry was more the route I wanted to go. So that's when I found Carrie, who is a longtime friend of my husband's. And it just worked out that they needed a sales agent. And she'll tell you, I turned her down the first time. Um, I did, but a couple months later, I came back and I'm like, "Hey, you still looking for somebody?" And luckily, she was, and kind of the rest is history from there as far as me
Okay, so
getting.
do you remember the name of the first community you sold at?
Yes, I started as an assistant in Wilroy Estates out in Suffolk, Virginia. But the first one I actually was the main sales agent at was Hill Point Estates out in Suffolk, Virginia.
We won't linger too long in your sales experience, but over 6 years, what would either the most surprising thing that happened or the funniest?
I remember, like, and I tell this story a lot because it just made me laugh so hard. Is that, well, I remember I was touring somebody through a home one day, and a lot of people, you're not supposed to do the feature dump, but a lot of people are asking you what's included in the home. And
Yeah.
somebody had asked me if doorknobs came included. And I was, and I was young, I was new. It was probably within the first year I was selling, but I just kind of laughed at that. And I said, no, we're like model airplanes. You kind of have to build your own. So we'll just leave you with doorknobs and call it a day. But yeah, so that was a pretty entertaining moment there.
Are doorknobs included?
Our doorknobs included.
That was a sarcastic question, right?
It was not a sarcastic
No?
question. No.
Yeah,
that was the best part.
I had that same experience a couple weeks ago where someone that I knew was going to go out and visit some models. And when they found out that I was in real estate, they said, "Now what's going to happen when I go to a model home?" And I thought it was a sarcastic question. And then I realized, no, they had no concept of what was going to happen or could happen.
It's really crazy how many people just really have no awareness of new construction. And, I've kind of found that in talking to friends and family over my last 9 years in this business.
Yeah, I love it. Do you remember your best year, how many homes you sold?
Oh, that's hard to say.
We have no way to verify this either. So
it was a year that I was bounced around a little bit, and I was between a couple communities. And then, and I had come out of our brand new community in Virginia Beach. So I would say that's really hard to say just because I was pulling from a couple different pots at that time. It was a good year though. I remember that.
Yeah. So then how did the idea did you have marketing background? Where did marketing come into the picture?
So I went to school. I have a degree in business administration from Old Dominion University. So that's a shout out to Jen, because I know she's a BU fan.
And Barkin.
So I do have a degree, and my focus was in marketing. I graduated in 2011. So, by the time I got to marketing, things had shifted a lot.
It doesn't really matter, because if you graduate from marketing today, they still haven't taught you how to do anything.
Yeah, that's true. It is ever changing, finding that out. But so I had, naturally had this allure that, one day I was going to get there. And, it's not always an easy path right out of college. It's, people want experience and they want you to have done it and lived it. And I hadn't when I first graduated, obviously, besides a little internship. So it kind of always lingered in my mind. And when the opportunity arose, I reached out to Carrie and I was like, hey, I think I might be interested in this. And that conversation, I'm so happy happened, because super happy in this role now.
But the transition wasn't immediate to where you are now as marketing manager. So you started in June of 2020.
Yes.
Interesting time.
What a time. What a time to start marketing. I'm learning that now. I don't think I realized that it was an interesting time then, but I'm realizing it now, because now it's shifted altogether. But yes, I did. Yeah. I started as just a marketing coordinator, and just to learn. I had a lot to start to learn. And luckily we work with Do You Convert, and you all have been instrumental in that. But then we kind of creeped up. Within a year, I was the assistant marketing manager. And then within a year of that, I was moved up to the marketing manager, managing our marketing team and our online sales team.
Is there a piece of advice or wisdom that you would share to someone who's getting involved in marketing, coming in from the sales side?
So I would say hold on to everything you've learned in sales. I didn't realize until I was on the marketing side how much of that information and just reading blueprints and included features and things like that, and just how the home is built, the process in general, that's so important. And, I used to tell the team all the time, like, I don't know how you came into this without that experience, because there is so much to learn about this industry. And that's where we can create content pieces from and really know what buyer objections are. I've heard so many buyer objections that it does make it easier in that sense to be able to say, hey, this is what we need to create a content piece about, because I know that this is what, buyers have questions on. So yeah, that's huge. And then also you kind of have to let go of an immediate checklist. If you're a person like me who is, it's really hard to let that go. I consider myself the type A personality type, and I like to be able to say, hey, I checked that off today, got this done, wrote this contract, had this appointment, and then I came into marketing and my entire world was shifted. Where I'm like, okay, well, I didn't finish this today. What did I do? What did I do if I can't check off a checklist? So that has been something to really learn for myself, to know that this is more project based. It's over a month, 2 months, 3 months, sometimes 6 months if you're doing, larger things like websites.
Right.
So that's been really, that's probably been one of my larger challenges, but
Yeah.
knowing that you get those little wins in different ways.
It's interesting that you say that, because a lot of salespeople that I've interacted with, whether they're doing this consciously or not, you can kind of watch their approach as they're in a particular neighborhood, kind of narrow in term. And I somewhat think about this like comics, where they go out and try out their new jokes in small comic clubs, and they go and do the big show on Netflix or wherever, right? So you got to test your stuff somewhere. And good salespeople tend to kind of, like how dogs look like their owners.
Yes.
It's like there's some metamorphosis that transpires when you get the right neighborhood with the right salesperson and they fit together and things are working.
Yes.
It's not necessarily check the box, but I think some of that translates in terms of you're thinking about like, this is my average customer, what they look like.
Mm-hmm.
This is the kind of thing they want. These are the, there might be 7 typical objections that a salesperson is going to face, but these are the 2 that I hear over and over in this neighborhood. I'm going to get really good at those 2. And so I think to your point, that is one of the things that can be difficult, is shifting that, because you're going from one neighborhood to another that might have completely different answers.
Yes.
And if you over checkbox that kind of, well, this is how it worked in one neighborhood, it's going to immediately apply to the other.
That it totally different. I mean, we're across 4 divisions now. Our features are different. Our buyer profiles are different. It's who are you selling to here? And then you have to totally shift that mindset that you have at that point in time. So that definitely is a huge change there. I remember I probably could still rattle off stuff about our community. The plants I sold are my favorite ones to have to do any marketing on, because like, I know this, I can tell you these square footages, bedrooms, baths in my sleep, but these ones I'm not as familiar with out of, the state, took a little bit more time, and are still a work in progress.
Do you feel like the sales skills you had in terms of communicating and, directly selling have allowed you to grow? Because you're now technically part of the regular management meetings. Is that correct?
Yes.
Like not a special guest, not a, hey, we may or may not have you in, but like you're at the table.
I am there.
Which it's a big thing to celebrate, because that's, one of the biggest complaints we often hear is, how do I get more involved in the company? Because it will make my job easier. I'll be able to help people better. Part of me wonders if your success in getting there relatively quickly, by the way, it probably didn't feel like it, but in comparison to other people's careers relatively quickly, comes from that background in communication, face to face.
I can see that. I can definitely see that. That's, being able to have those conversations with a buyer who is, you can get any end of the spectrum that day from anyone who walks through that door, and being able to kind of shift and be a chameleon to those circumstances that come through, I think was important in sales, and is something that, has helped me on this side as well, being able to present and kind of take what's thrown at me question wise. And, even if it's the same thing when you're in these meetings as when you're in front of a buyer. I don't know the answer to that, but let me find out for you and I'll get back to you. Like, it's that same technique that you can use in both.
But without a look of sheer terror on your face.
Yeah, without looking like I'm about to cry.
I know several people who have had opportunities for promotions or to have potentially that seat, but they get the initial invitation and then it just goes terrible. Like fumbling over every word, profusely sweating, all the things that you don't necessarily want to do when you're trying to convey that you should be a part of this team. And like I've never experienced it, but I have to imagine the feeling of going through your sales training program, to whatever extent it existed when you started with Chesapeake, to like being by yourself at the model home for the first time over the course of your very first week and having your first 2 or 3 prospects walk through the door.
I laugh at that a lot, because I'm like, I remember, I think it was the first weekend that I was there and I was by myself on site. And, I feel like there's a lot more hand holding and making sure training. And I think that's important. Like training is important. We know that. But we look back at that and, Carrie always refers to it as the MAP key training. And that's kind of where we were at that point in time. And it was nerve wracking at that point. And, the things that you have to say, the statements, the breakaway statements that I worked retail for when I was in college as well. And that was always a big thing, a breakaway statement. Like you've got to be able to get to the next person and still, give service to everybody throughout the store. And that was something when you get busy, you got to have that in mind and be able to kind of focus on a bunch of different questions and conversations. So there's a lot of skills that you learn through sales that help you throughout anything you do in life. I mean, you can't deny that. Really with a lot of jobs, just like all of my admin roles that I had kind of had up until that point have helped me through this as well. Salespeople, they don't love admin all the time. And I did because I had that. And now in marketing, like I love being able to have that sales background and kind of have more of a hand in what's going on that side as well.
What project would you say you're the most proud of or result of marketing efforts since you've been there? Would you say you're most proud of?
I think probably like our first, when we launched our master plan community, Bridgewater's new website, just because that was so new to me in what I was doing. And I was still, fairly early in. And I think that when I think back of that, that's going to help throughout my role here, not only in website launches, but looking at the website, making sure I'm understanding how it functions. And we know that's a huge part of this role.
Most master plan developer websites do not function well. I'm probably not supposed to say that. But oftentimes when we're working with a builder who's part of a master plan, like 9 out of 10 times, talk to us about the value you're getting from the master plan developer site. And they're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Or not much. Or, they tell me it's good, but I don't know. So to be able to pull that off of a master plan site that functions well, and it's also just fun. Like it's different levels of different types of content. You've got stuff on there about all the events that are happening at the master plan. And
not to say it's perfect. It is evolution every single day.
Right.
We're always looking at, with suggestions from you all and what we get from online sales. Hey, this isn't really making sense to buyers.
How many homes have you sold at Bridgewater, roughly? Any idea?
Total?
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't know. We're down to our final village. So that's 1,000 total. This one's about 200. So I would say we're probably in the 600 to 700 range.
Right. So as a master plan developer, where you're the only product in the master plan is all Chesapeake Homes product, right?
Yes, we're all.
So you might be cautious to say it, but I would say that's definitely for a website to be able to facilitate successfully the sell through of that community as the major heavy lifting. Now, in your case, you also chose an interesting strategy to have the product listed on the Chesapeake Homes site.
Yes.
And you've got a separate master plan community for the Bridgewater site. And the two are linked on the same back end because you're using Homefinity for both from O'Neill.
Mm-hmm.
But you do have some exposure, but the heavy lifting is done by the master plan site. And that, again, most master plan sites can't not sell homes well. They can maybe drive some traffic, but they can't really.
And a big thing there, we know in a master plan is the lifestyle. And, we have our items on our Chesapeake Home site, but it doesn't touch on the lifestyle near to the amount that it does on the master plan site, which is, it's doing the heavy lifting. It truly is.
Yep. Okay. I asked all the nice questions. So here's a tough one.
Oh, nice.
What thing are you most surprised at how difficult it's been, or something that you haven't yet been able to achieve that you maybe think you would have figured out or done by now?
Digital marketing ads, Google, it stresses me out. That honestly, that has been I have the hardest time with, I don't know what it is that doesn't always click about what I'm doing in there. I'm chalking it up to, I just need some more time to function in there and give it some more, it's been 3 years. I would hope I would have had it down
Well,
by now, but
yeah, and I think I love the transparency there because it also would make sense. Not trying to stereotype anyone, but a sales background, not being as excited about what is essentially spreadsheets for
spreadsheet.
ads.
Mm-hmm. Spreadsheets for the
You know,
living daylights out of me, and that's probably horrible to say in this role.
no, what I think is remarkable, and that's why we have people come on the program, is there's a lot of someone else's listening who are like, yeah, I also don't like spreadsheets.
It's okay. You could be in marketing and not like a spreadsheet. Like, it's totally okay. You can make it through. I promise you.
Yeah, you have to have the right tools, the right
Yes.
partners, the right people on your team who can help balance you. But I think that's where that self-awareness of which is step one. Step two is, do I need to, and at what level, become an expert? So if you were still in your coordinator role and your primary interface with us at Do You Convert was giving us feedback on which communities need help and improving Google ads on a regular basis, that might be a challenge. In your current role, where you're meeting with regional sales managers and company owners and doing all of the things, you still want to have a comfort in there to a degree, but you don't need to have the same skill set. And on one hand, that's maybe sad. That's probably not the right word, but on some sense, like, you want to feel like you're always leveling up with a complete, solid foundation of everything underneath you as you've grown. That's not always how it works. Sometimes you grow really fast, which I would argue again that you've done in 2.5, 3 years. And you're going to have these holes in that foundation that you may never fill in. I'm not trying to be
sad, and it's so true. And that's something, I want to always kind of be the best at what I'm doing and at least have processes and things down. I think that's been difficult for me because I'm like, when I came into the management role, I remember Carrie telling me, you're going to need to delegate something. Like, you can't be a manager and do everything like that you were doing. And I was like, what? I kind of had this moment of realization, and now that I've been in the management role for almost 2 years, I'm realizing she was 100% right. And you have to work with your team. You have a team for a reason. I try and think of my role as making sure that the team is in a good place. They are happy with what they're doing. They know the processes. They get to the right people. And then I'm just trying to, coach and help them through there. So it kind of bothers me still. I'm like, I don't know this 100%. I get in there. I try and keep tabs on it. Obviously we know what neighborhoods need the help, what don't, but that's where it was definitely a big shift for me into this.
Yeah, you can view it either way. On the one hand, you would say, man, I hope I have an opportunity to fill that skill gap and things slow down. Or you can look at it from the positive and say, things are moving so quickly and we're having the success we are, and my career is having the success where I don't have the time. Like, if you did have the time, maybe that would mean something else is not good is happening.
Exactly. So we were able to grow the team, and so, that grows time that has to be put towards other people. So that's important.
Yeah. Okay. Last question, curveball. If you weren't in marketing and you couldn't go back to sales, what is the other most interesting part of the home building business to you? This might be in my new standard question for people.
That's a really good question.
It's like my answer is always, I would go back into land and land development and that whole part of it. Super fascinating, super compelling, high amount of energy and intrigue goes into, how you secure those things, and it has a big impact on the business. But
I would say I did a little fill-in as the design coordinator at one point in time. So, multifaceted over here.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I love that day to day, but I did enjoy the stint in here of being able to work with buyers. And I just, came in as a person who didn't have any, I was filling in. So I'm like, wow, you do a lot more than I thought you did. Like, it was a real eye-opening experience. And I laugh with our Virginia designer now about that a lot. But just helping buyers through that point, like I built a home last year with Chesapeake.
You thought selling the floor plan was hard, trying to get them to
Like
agree on the
there were
same.
so, and when I first started selling, we were selling out of, the model and doing all of our selections out of a little room in the model. And there were granite pieces that were like 3x3, and there were like 5 of them. So there wasn't a lot. And then we opened up this design gallery in 2017, and wow, like the amount of options that she has to, that all of our designers have to go through with buyers on a day-to-day basis is just impressive. And it really does. I mean, they call them the profit centers for a reason when you're doing these pre-sales. And now that we're back in pre-sale land, it's really been impressive to see everybody come back in here and select their options and see what they're contributing now. So I like that. I think it's just such a fun experience from the part of the home buyer, and it's something that we in marketing want to really showcase this year. It's on our to-do list for the year. But yeah, that's kind of the route. I think I'd have to go in more of a creative route. I don't think I could go into any I don't want to be in land development or accounting or purchasing. That's, once again, we're back to spreadsheet land.
Yeah, the closer you get to spreadsheets, the less desire you have. I love it.
Yes, I want the more creative stuff.
Nicole has only been in our industry since 2014 and graduated in 2011. So it's always fun to have marketers come on and talk about real life. It's especially fun when you know that they're going to be around for a long time to come. So it's exciting to watch you continue to grow and gain exposure. And thanks again for.
Thank you. And thank you all for all your help at You Converted. You guys have been great. So I'm thankful to have them in my corner when you are a new marketer. You have a lot to learn.
Thanks for saying that.
Yeah.
We love working with you.
And the only spreadsheet I like is the market proof marketing algorithm spreadsheet.
Oh, now you're just kissing up. Let's say it again louder. No. That's right. You can take everything else away from me. Just keep that spreadsheet.
Keep the spreadsheet. I need that in my life.
Awesome. Thanks again, Nicole.
Thank you.
See ya.